Egypt just accused FIFA of fixing the World Cup, and they are not backing down. The Egyptian Football Association has formally asked FIFA to throw out the entire officiating crew from their heartbreaking last 16 loss to Argentina. This isn't a quiet grumble on social media. It's an official complaint filed directly with football's governing body, and it's aimed squarely at French referee François Letexier and his VAR team. Here's what actually happened on the pitch in Atlanta. Egypt were up 1-0 in the second half, playing the game of their lives against the reigning world champions. Then striker Mostafa Zico buried what looked like a crucial second goal. Celebrations broke out, and then they stopped because VAR stepped in. The review found that midfielder Marwan Attia had stepped on Lisandro Martínez's foot right at the start of the passage of play that led to the goal. Whistle blown, goal wiped off the board. But that wasn't the only flashpoint. Late in the match, with Egypt still fighting to hold their nerve, Mohamed Salah appeared to go down inside Argentina's box. No call, no review. Just seconds later, Argentina broke away and scored the stoppage time winner that would ultimately send them through. For Egyptian fans watching, it felt like the officials had looked away at the exact moment it mattered most. The final score tells the rest of the story. A wild 3-2 win for Argentina, completed in the dying minutes of the match. Now the Egyptian Federation is putting its president's name behind the outrage. Hani Abu Rida has gone on record demanding a full FIFA investigation into what is calling serious refereeing errors and inconsistent standards that, in his words, cost Egypt their place in the tournament. The Federation isn't asking for quiet review either. They want Letexier and his entire team formally excluded from the World Cup once the investigation concludes. Their statement goes even further, using the word discrimination to describe how their team was treated on the pitch. Egypt's complaint doesn't stop at the disallowed goal. They are also accusing officials of refusing to properly review other key moments, calling it a pattern of ignoring evidence that would have favored their side. And it's not just the Federation talking. The players and coaching staff are speaking out too, raw and emotional in the aftermath. Head coach Hossam Hassan didn't mince words after the final whistle, saying his team had been treated unfairly and had suffered a genuine injustice. He went a step further, suggesting, pointedly, that maybe officials wanted to keep the defending champions alive in the competition. Maybe, he implied, somebody wanted Lionel Messi's World Cup story to continue a little longer. Zico, the man whose goal was chalked off, was even more blunt. He called the officiating unjust from the very first whistle and didn't hold back, telling reporters flatly that he believes this tournament has been fixed. Strong words. And there's context that makes this defeat sting even harder. Egypt has never, in their entire World Cup history, made it as far as the quarterfinals. This was supposed to be the moment that changed. Instead, it slipped away in the final minutes, with Messi at the heart of the turnaround. The Argentine captain, who may be playing in his very last World Cup, set up the equalizer in the 79th minute and then scored it himself just 4 minutes later, dragging his team from the brink of elimination to a stunning comeback win. So what actually happens now? Here's the uncomfortable truth. History says almost nothing. Referee protests at the World Cup have a long track record of going absolutely nowhere. FIFA's disciplinary process exists, technically, but it rarely produces results that satisfy the team filing the complaint. Go back to the last World Cup, and France found themselves in a strikingly similar position. After losing to Tunisia in their final group match, the French Federation lodged an official protest, pointing to a stoppage time goal that was disallowed through a VAR review many felt didn't follow proper protocol. The outcome? FIFA's disciplinary committee dismissed it within a short statement, offering no real explanation for the decision either way. That's usually how these things go. FIFA might quietly send underperforming officials home without fanfare, but a public reversal, an admission of fault, a real consequence handed down after a formal complaint, that's exceptionally rare. Part of the problem is baked into the sport itself. Refereeing decisions, even with video review sitting right there, are still fundamentally judgment calls. A foul, a stepped-on foot, contact in the box. These things live in a gray area open to interpretation. Officials are human, and humans make mistakes under pressure, in real time, with a global audience watching every replay in slow motion. A mistake doesn't automatically prove a conspiracy, even when it feels that way to the team on the losing end. And that's really the tension at the heart of this story. From Egypt's side, it doesn't feel like an isolated error. It feels like the goal was crucial, the penalty shout was ignored, and both decisions broke in exactly the direction that kept the biggest star in the tournament alive. From a neutral standpoint, though, these are exactly the kinds of complaints that get filed in the immediate emotional aftermath of a gutting loss, and history shows most of them quietly disappear within weeks, without FIFA ever offering much of an explanation. Complaints like this tend to follow a familiar arc. They dominate headlines for a few days. Federations release strongly worded statements. Coaches and players give emotional interviews. And then, as the tournament rolls on and new storylines take over, the outrage fades, even if the underlying frustration never really goes away for the fans and players who live through it. For now, Argentina moves on. They are set to face Switzerland next, with kickoff scheduled for the early hours of Sunday morning in the UK. Messi's World Cup journey continues, at least for one more round. For Egypt, the tournament is over. What remains is a formal complaint sitting on FIFA's desk, a wounded fan base convinced they were cheated out of history, and a football federation determined to make sure this moment isn't forgotten quietly. Whether FIFA responds with anything more than a brief dismissal is another question entirely, and if the last World Cup is any indication, fans probably shouldn't hold their breath.